So, hello everybody. We are here with Glen. So, Glen is a manager in the Special Solutions Architect team in London. And Glen, would you like to talk a little bit about yourself and your background?
Hi. Great to be here. Thanks for letting me join. As you say, I'm one of the specialist solution architect managers based out of the UK. I run the whole UK teams. I've been running specialist teams for longer than I care to remember, to be quite honest. It's a really exciting team to manage, and it's a great part of the business to be in.
Cool. So can you describe a little bit the SSA role, so the specialist role, and how it differs from the solutions architect role?
Yeah, so the specialist role is, as the name suggests, it's specializing in a particular area. So where a solution architect is aligned to an account and has to think about all of the technology within Databricks, specialists are kind of divided into data engineers, data scientists, cloud platform specific people, and they'll specialize in that area. And really the specialist will partner with the SA on an account to provide that deep technical expertise to take the conversation to a deeper level, but still help the customer get the most out of the product, achieve their goals, and ultimately move projects to production.
So kind of the solutions architect is managing the account, and then the specialist is jumping into specific projects based on the specialty.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. Can you walk us through the interview process for the specialist roles, because they are a little bit different to the solutions architect role?
Absolutely. So it starts off with a conversation with somebody like myself, just to talk with the candidate, understand what's your background, what kind of experience have you got, what are you looking to get out of your career, that kind of general stuff. Would you be a good fit for the specialist role? Or might you come from a technical background but actually be a better fit for one of the other technical roles that's there? So if we establish that you've got a particular spike in one of the technical depths, then we would move you forward to a coding assignment. That's done within our environment, series of questions that you have to write, usually Python code, to get some kind of output. And that coding assignment is usually specific to whether or not you're doing data engineering, data warehousing, or data science. After that, there's a technical interview. So usually with one of the specialists in my team, again, the interview is all technical domain specific. But you'll have like an hour's interview with someone in my team, and they'll dig into your technical background and just assess the level that you're at, really. After that, we'll usually move to an architectural interview. This is more of a situational interview, puts you in an environment where you're acting like you're working with a customer and trying to tease out, do some discovery on what is the customer trying to achieve, ask the right questions, can you get the right outcome from that situational process? It's meant to mimic a customer environment. If everything's great there, then we move forward to an executive interview. That's usually with one of my managers. And if everything's great there, then we'd look to make you an offer.
Amazing. So just to clarify, the situational interview in this kind of role is a little bit different to the situational interview we have on the solutions architect role, which looks like a panel. In our case here, it's more, we're trying to find, ask the interviewer, like what kind of solutions they have in mind, or problems or challenges, and then we architecting together a solution.
Absolutely. I'd consider it more of almost like a whiteboarding session rather than being a panel. It's a one-on-one. But yeah, all around some kind of situation and can you get that right technical result?
Cool. Amazing. So then we have coding. Then we have the technical interview, which is different from specialty to specialty.
Yes.
Then we have the situational interview, and then the final round with more higher.
Yeah, one of the executives. The executives are always interested in what are your longer-term career goals. What's your longevity going to be like with Databricks, and how can we help you achieve your career? That's a really important thing for us.
Makes sense. And then on the specialties we have for the SSA, so Special Solutions Architect, we have data science, engineering, warehouse, platform and security. Mm-hmm. So what are the different things? So how can you define the spike that you're looking for across the different specialties?
Some of them come out a little bit easier than others. For data scientists, it's very, very clear when you first start speaking to somebody. You know, they've probably had a background or a deep passion in, you know, classic machine learning, or you know, nowadays everything is to do with generative AI, and
Yes.
you know, people are talking about the different experiments that they've been running. So we start to tease out some of the ideas on, you know, have they ever done anything in anger in production? Is it anything at scale, or are they more sort of doing things on their own laptop, maybe a bit of a hobby, and are looking to move into something there? But it'll always be, you know, what the candidate tells us, and this is what they enjoy doing, this is where their passion is. Quite often they'll have had a degree or something, some kind of formal education in, you know, data science or a master's or something like that. Data engineering, actually, the majority of candidates that I speak to would fall into the category of data engineering because it's very broad. You find that anything to do with streaming, data ingestion, manipulation of data, even actually getting into data warehousing, you know, anything that would do with taking raw data from one place, putting it into Databricks, manipulating it in some way, and getting it to a stage where somebody could report on that data. That would typically fall into data engineering, and that's incredibly broad.
And also, it's a very big focus of our platform, right? So the
Absolutely,
data
it's the core of where we've come from, and that's why I say most of the roles that we do would end up falling into that category in some way. And then cloud platform and security, those are people who have potentially been an enterprise architect somewhere, or somebody who really knows how AWS or Microsoft Azure or GCP work at the kind of network, the security level, the you know, they can go into a blank subscription and they can set up all of the infrastructure in an enterprise grade environment ready for something like Databricks to be deployed on top. You know, they're very familiar with large scale networks and security environments. Those kind of people would fit into that cloud platform piece, because Databricks only exists in the cloud on those major providers. And you can guarantee that once you've got something great working, customers want to make sure it's secure and accessible.
And for the last one, are we expecting them to know multiple clouds, or one would be sufficient?
For the interview process, one cloud is sufficient. Knowing more is definitely advantageous, but really having a good, strong understanding of AWS or Azure is what we will be looking at. While that person is in the role, there's an expectation that they would start to skill up on the other two. So that's certainly a growth area, but for interview, at least one.
Cool. So, Glenn, you have interviewed many people, I guess, across all of these years. And what are the red flags specifically when you are hiring for this kind of role? So what have you seen that usually goes wrong?
I suppose the biggest red flag that I would look at is somebody that's had a lot of jobs in a short period of time. When I look to hire a candidate, I'm looking for someone to stay with me for as long as possible. You know, I appreciate that there is obviously career movement, but that career movement I would hope would be within Databricks. Maybe that person is progressing. So if somebody has done 6 or 9 months with one company and then jumped to another one, and a year later jumped to another one, and that's very frequent, that gives me a bit of an indication that somebody is either not entirely sure what they want from their career, or they're, you know, moving around for, you know, some other reason that potentially just doesn't align with what I'm looking for. So that's usually the first piece there. The other thing I would look at would be experience. And because we're a specialist team, I'm looking for people who have not just got the theory, you know, read the book, done the exam, but has that individual got any industry experience that we can leverage? Because any of the customers or teams that we work with they've asked a specialist to come in because they need that deeper level of exposure. And so any past experience will just be really advantageous there. So those are two things I would look out for. And a lack of those would be, you know, the two red flags I'd look at the most. Okay.
And in terms of kind of common mistakes people do during the interview process, what are usually those, and any tips?
I'll give you the top two. The first one always comes in the coding assignment. Don't use ChatGPT or any AI. Don't paste the question in and then copy and paste the answers. It shows up really, really obviously.
So it's monitored, and then you see a bunch
it's monitored so we can see you doing the copy and pasting, but also given the number of candidates we've come through, it would be incredibly coincidental to have 10 candidates all copy and paste the exact same code, which is what you get from using those kind of things. We're not assessing your ability to use an LLM. We're testing your ability to actually write code and get the answers. So that one's quite key. The other one comes in with things like the situational interview and the technical interview. You can never go too deep. Okay, don't hold back. If you're an expert, if you know the answer, talk, share your experience, let it go through. I've had that with people at the hiring manager interview where they assume potentially because I'm a manager, I'm not technical, and so I ask a question and you just get a surface level answer. Don't do that. Impress us. Show your knowledge. Go as deep as you can, because it will only serve you well. Everybody here is technical. They've come from a technical background somewhere. We know our product. So, talk to us like you're one of your colleagues. Go deep and shine. That's the best thing to do.
Yeah, to be honest, like in both of the interviews, the architectural one and the technical one, the questions are very open, right? So we're expecting them to share from their experience and then go deep, deep, deep. And if they don't, usually we ask follow-up questions to get to this deeper level. So yeah, if they can do it on their own and share these, then that makes a difference.
And that can be quite a signal as well. If somebody has good communication skills, a lot of what we're assessing is how might you be in front of a customer. So being able to answer a question with more than a single sentence, be able to elaborate within that context is really good as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I really also like the point around the collaboration between teams, because obviously I'm from a different role. I'm a solutions architect, which is more of a generalist role. And so just to highlight again for people applying, this role expects you to be technical on all aspects of the platform. This means in the morning, I can have a call around streaming. And then I jump on another call with machine learning engineers, and I'm going to talk about Gen AI. What I really love about the particular role that I have is that then at some point, I can't be an expert on all aspects of the platform. But then with this team of specialists, I can bring in someone who can go deeper. And what I love is that I learned so much at the same time, because I can talk about Gen AI, I can provide, like solutions, etc. But for example, when it comes to building a multi-agent framework, I'd rather bring in, a specialist if, there's a tricky requirement that I'm not 100% sure of, etc. And so what I love about the solutions architect role is also like this collaboration with the SSA team, because I get to learn a lot in my day-to-day job. So also just advertising for my team as well.
Absolutely. Very well put.
From my side, I would say, Glen, are there any misconceptions that candidates may have about the roles in your team, in the SSA team?
Yeah, the most common one is that we implement solutions for customers. If I think about a kind of straight line of all of the roles within Databricks, the specialist role is almost at the beginning. It's a pre-sales role. It's about talking to customers about what are they trying to achieve, potentially what's the art of the possible, and helping to answer questions and architect solutions for something that could be or will be implemented in the future. But when it comes to actually implement them, that's where a different team, professional services or partners or things, get involved to actually build things for customers. My team rarely, if ever, gets involved in production deployments, because we're helping other customers, understand what is possible and how to transform their business. And so that's the biggest misconception. We don't build things. When my team does go hands-on, and it is a very technical team, it would be through things like proof of concepts or other similar things there, proving something out, maybe supporting with an MVP or something like that. Do work with our own product team on private preview and those kind of early stages, but we're never building solutions for, weeks or months for customers, that's a different team.
And also, like, we don't have so long-term engagements either, right? So because we're not delivering the solution, we don't have like months and months of work on a specific customer. So usually we are working in parallel.
Yeah, very true. It becomes a fine balance that, if you can meet a customer once, maybe for an hour or half a day, answer all their questions, really empower them to understand what to do, and you never see that customer again, that's not a problem. That's actually potentially really good. You can go and do the same thing with many, many other customers. But sometimes you may be working with a single customer for a month, over a number of days each week, because it's a very complex environment. You're helping them to discover how their current solution works, and again, what's the art of the possible. But it's definitely not over months or years.
Yeah, and often what I see is that when I bring in a specialist, the customer will appreciate having the specialist providing lots of advice, strategy. Then they need to go digest that information and, try and do the work themselves. And maybe they need those couple days, to like digest information before meeting again, which is why sometimes it can be extended over a few weeks.
Absolutely. I talk to my team about, I refer to that as giving the customer homework. A really good meeting with the customer, give them some homework, and then meet them the following week and see if they did it. Absolutely. Yeah.
So true. And do you value leadership skills in specialist roles, or is technical expertise the most important, factor for the success of the team?
Definitely appreciate leadership. The technical expertise is critical because of the nature of the role, but I look for leaders within there as well. And the reason to do that is because, as we've already discussed, right, a specialist will come in and more than likely lead on a particular topic with a customer, or maybe they realize the complexity of a particular situation and they've brought in other specialists or support people from across the business, and they're acting as a lead for that small team of technical people. So it's those leadership qualities in that context is very important. We also get involved in a lot of innovation. We're creating new projects or initiatives across the business all the time, and being able to not just ideate on something, but put it together an action plan and then lead a team of people across different countries within Databricks to see that to an outcome. That's really, really important as well. And those leadership qualities are quite often tested as we look to promote candidates. So as you move into senior and lead roles, as the name suggests, if you're a lead specialist, you're expected to have those leadership quantities. And it's much better if someone joins with a natural intent to do that kind of thing. So yeah, I look for a good combination of the two.
Awesome. And how would you describe the diversity of the team in terms of background? Is it mostly data engineering, data warehousing, ML engineers? What's the composition of the team?
It's quite a mix. I feel quite fortunate at the moment that the team has a really good blend of technical experiences. So the main domains, data engineering, data science, that we talk about from a Databricks perspective, but also that team is a mix of kind of male, female, different ethnicities, very different backgrounds with experience from lots of different companies. Some have just come out of full-time education. Others have been, working 20 plus years at different companies as well. Some have come from major cloud vendors like myself, others from small startups. And that blend of experiences and backgrounds and cultures really helps when we're working with customers, but it also works when we have team meetings and ideation sessions to get that blend of input. That's really, really key. That's something that's actually quite close to my heart, really, when I'm looking at how my team looks and what kind of candidates I'm looking for to some degree as well.
Yes, our team is very diverse.
Yes, it is.
And that's a very important question for all the teams at Databricks. How do you keep the team skill sets updated with things changing at a very fast pace?
Yes, that's always a challenge. And I think my team potentially sees that challenge a little more than anywhere else, because when we're talking about releasing a new product, account teams will ask for a specialist to come in and speak to a customer. So my team's got to be a little bit further ahead. So one of the things we do there is that I carve out time every single week for my team. It usually works out to be 1 day a week where they're free to use that for either projects that they want to work on or go and learn something new. For me, it's something that I try and ring fence and protect as much as possible, because it is really important that specialists are right on the bleeding edge of technology, and not just ours, but competition and, what are the changing trends within the industry as well. The only way you can really be a specialist in front of a customer is if you know the answers, or at least have an understanding of what's happening. And that has to happen on a week by week basis. We're in a company that innovates very quickly. As soon as something has been released, there's another version in a few weeks' time. There are some people across the team who are really good at monitoring what our product teams release, and they'll share the kind of internal documentation beforehand, and we get the team together to read through it and what does that mean for us. So protecting that time is the biggest thing that I can do for my team, and then encourage them to use that wisely.
Yeah, I see a lot of people having different methods for it. Personally, I'm just like you. I prefer to just have 1 day a week focus on training, like projects, etc., that is not customer related, so that I can keep up to date. Then I saw some people a bit every day, they will keep like 1 hour or 2 just for training. So, but it's so important to have that time dedicated, because things are changing so fast at Databricks.
Absolutely. We do also have some mandatory training that goes through the year as well. So some of the things that's on, our own products, there are some things that are company wide. And again, it's important that it's not just that it's mandatory, but we make time to kind of do those. And then any kind of certifications that are relevant as well. Those are things that we kind of scatter through the year. So it's very much a mix of formal and informal training, but just making time for it is critical.
Yeah, so true. And final question. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to join a specialist team like yours in the future?
So I guess the first piece, it might sound obvious, but pick a specialty. You can't be a specialist in everything. You can eventually, but that's like a couple of decades down the line once you've done lots of different things. If you want to, if your passion is data science, then focus on data science, and potentially one part of that, be a specialist in something, because we're looking for somebody who has a spike in a particular area, something where we can say you are an expert in that field and we can help you grow. Know what you want to do from that specialist point of view. The second piece would be have some experience. I've interviewed a lot of candidates who I know eventually they will be brilliant candidates for Databricks, but at the moment when I speak to them, their exposure to data science, for example, is playing with the Python examples in scikit-learn on their laptop. So that's great early experience, but it's not a large distributed system. It's not kind of production grade. And so that industry experience is lacking. And my encouragement for those people have been to go and get a junior role potentially in somewhere, but will give them exposure, because then we'll be able to help you grow that later on. And the last piece is, just understand the industry. It's critical for a specialist to understand not just that particular piece of technology, but all of the different, one piece of technology, but all the other products as well. Because customers never use just Databricks. They'll use a combination of technologies, and understanding how different pieces of tech work together is just as important as knowing Databricks in its own right. I guarantee that my team is working with customers to help them understand how Databricks works with something else, not how it works alone. Those two things would be my top tips.
Another question that I think may come from people who want to join is, are you expected to pick an industry, or as a specialist, are you expected to work for several, like customers sitting in different industries?
Yeah, good question. So you don't have to pick an industry as a specialist. The account teams are usually aligned to particular customers and particular industries. Specialists work, generally speaking, across all of them. Now, it can be advantageous for me to hire a specialist that has potentially come from a bank or a travel industry or something like that previously, because you'll have a spike in one industry and that will help, but you will wholeheartedly be working across all different customers. That variety, having spoken to my team, is something they enjoy the most. One day you're working with a major bank, the next minute a major retailer, and then you're in manufacturing the day after. That variety is fantastic, and that in turn helps you when you're working with customers, because you can show how other people are using or solving the very same problem potentially. So yeah, it's that diversity coming in again there.
And Glenn, what about knowledge of Databricks and experience on the Databricks platform?
It's very nice to have, but it's not expected. Obviously, it's an advantage if you've used Databricks previously. Going through the interview process, being able to use the exact same terminology and understand the environment. Of course, that will help. But more often than not, candidates that come through have used some other product. If you're a data engineer and you are familiar with Spark, well, actually, let me rephrase that. If you're familiar with Spark, regardless of the specialism, that will stand you in good stead, because Spark is the core of Databricks. So regardless of which speciality you're going for, having some knowledge of Spark will absolutely help. But that doesn't have to be on Databricks. There are many other products that have Spark at its core. With things like data warehouse specialists, any exposure to any of the major traditional data warehouse vendors will obviously help you a lot, because you'll understand data modeling, data warehousing concepts, all that kind of stuff, which is directly translatable to Databricks. And we truly believe in our ability to teach people Databricks. So that part's fine.
Amazing. Thank you, Glenn.
Thanks, Glenn.
It's been great chatting to you. Thanks very much.